To make drum shells, they slice an enormous rock maple log into several boards. Maple is ideal for making drum shells because its hardness allows sound to resonate fully. Each of these maple boards will be transformed into one drum shell. Workers feed the boards to a ripsaw, which cuts them to the correct width. This varies depending on the size of drum being made. Then each board goes into a planer, which shaves it thinner. A worker aligns the board with markings on a saw table. This positions the board to be cut to the correct length. A radial arm saw does the job neatly. Now he sizes up each board in preparation for tapering. He places a board on an angle in a jig and then moves the end against a router cutter to taper it. It takes a few passes to get it just right. The taper needs to be about 15 centimeters long. He thins the other end of the board to the same dimension. These tapered ends will make it easier to bend the wood into a drum shape later. They'll also act as scarf joints, which will fasten the ends of the board together when it's bent round. But first, this board needs some softening up. An hour in the steam box does the trick. It's pliable enough to wind around a hot cylindrical form. Steel banding secures the board to the bending form, where it will spend 10 to 15 minutes. A worker pries apart the ends and applies a generous amount of glue between the tapered tips. Then he removes the shim that was holding the ends apart so that they stick together. He places a wooden guard over the glued joint. This nylon mesh band is a clamp. He wraps it around the drum shell and turns a screw to pull the band tightly around the wood until it reaches 35.5 centimeters in diameter. Then he fastens over a dozen steel clamps onto the joint. All these clamps will prevent any gaps from occurring in the joint as the glue sets overnight. With the joint sealed, the drum shell now spins while a cutter shaves down the edges to make it a true round shell. Then they bring in another cutter. It bores into the shell, making a smooth edge and rounding the inside. He turns the drum shell around to cut it from another angle. As the shell spins, a high-speed cutter shaves the outside from top to bottom. This makes the surface very smooth. It takes about a week to make a drum shell from solid wood, and it'll be able to stand up to a real beating.